Action!
Well. This is what the doctor may have ordered for all you power users. Digital content creators, photo, video editors, 3D animators, CAD/CAM users, in fact, anybody who wants a lot of power on their desktop for their own creation. This is what the doctor has ordered. Well, this is the one. Oh, okay. This is also maybe interesting to all those Apple users who are getting a little unhappy about the ever-increasing prices of the new Apple range of laptops. This may be the answer. Well, this is the all-new Asus ProArt StudioBook 16-inch. One of the most powerful laptops Asus has ever produced. Drum rolls. So here it is, a very well designed, compact, well, it's 16-inch, but feels very nice, no nonsense kind of design, all metal. It's all aluminum alloy design and straight lines, no bumps, no nothing. I really like the way it feels in your hand. It's not very light or not very heavy either, like some of those heavy-duty laptops which are made to order. Some of them I've seen, they were like very, very heavy. This stays very well planted on the table. There is some friction is offered by this grip. So this is what these lines, these are made of a different material, not the aluminum. These are like the material used for mobile phone bumper cases. I think it feels like that. And this is what is, actually contacting the surface of the table. So the metal parts will never get scratched. And there is enough space for the ventilation. We'll come to that later. And see, you already know that Asus has a very well-defined range of products, laptops for different purposes. So you have the VivoBook, you have the ZenBook, and you have, of course, another full range of TUF and ROG range of gaming laptops. Creators, who wants a powerful laptop, all this while has been resorting to buying a powerful gaming laptop for obvious reasons. But gaming laptops comes with its own, advantages and disadvantages. The advantages that a lot of them are available at a budget. But the disadvantages, most of them are really heavy, they are bulky, they got a different design altogether. And also it has very colorful, bright backlit LED kind of funky keyboards, which usually pro creators, as in professional creators, don't exactly appreciate. They want to have a very no-nonsense kind of an approach, very straightforward approach with very little, distractions on their, working environment. So this is exactly what the ProArt StudioBook is offering, because I've been working with it for the last 1 week, and these are my genuine personal feedback. Now, if you look at this keyboard, well, there are a couple of very interesting, very unusual, seeing for the first time kind of features. Well, very clean, no nonsense, like I just mentioned, kind of layout. The buttons feel very nice, and of course lots of real estate both for the keyboard and also for the screen. And I see this very well integrated new feature for the first time on a laptop here. It's called the Asus Dial, and we will come to that slightly later. And I also see a third button on the mouse pad, on the trackpad, of course. This trackpad too has a special function, so we'll come to that later as well. What I really like is, as you can see, is this clean straight lines, everything well laid out, and of course the couple of labels here right on top. And of course it also says it's got a Harman Kardon set of speakers. Well, so prima facie, I really like it. And well, that was my impression when I originally opened it. Okay, I'm saying this for the video, but when I opened it originally, that was my impression. Now, the kind of people who would use this computer are, like I mentioned earlier, are photographers, cinematographers, editors, content creators in general, and 3D animation people, and also, let's say, an architect, for example. They all work in their studio environment, home environment, and also on the field. So sturdiness definitely is of paramount importance. Please be known that this computer has gone through military standard testing. So when you say military standards, it's called military standard 810, I think. If you go through some videos, there are lots of videos in the YouTube available, and you go through and understand what all the tests that they do before they certify a product to that kind of standard. Now that the build quality is, that's not a bother anymore, that it's being taken care of. The next thing that we must naturally worry about is the performance, right? What kind of chip is it using? Is the memory expandable? What kind of GPU it has? And of course, what about the warranty? And if there are any additional features in it. Well, let me assure you, this computer has all that and more. The first and the foremost one is the fact that this is the first 4K OLED 16-inch in the world. Let me switch it on and let me talk to you about the computer and each aspect of this computer, or the laptop. I keep saying computer. Well, of course, this is a computer because we do a lot of work on desktops, and this is one powerful laptop that we have in the studio. Let me start the laptop. Power, very important. All right, and okay, and that's exactly the time it took to start up and go to the first screen. Well, I think some mobile phones and tablets take more time than this to start up. Well, this happens because of two reasons. One, of course, is it's got the latest chip, and second, that the memory where the operating system resides sits on the motherboard itself. So the laptop starts up in a flash. So what you get to see is an amazing OLED, extremely bright, rich, colorful kind of screen, which is HDR compatible screen. You can switch on and switch off the HDR feature in the in your control panel. Now, for me, this is one of the biggest advantages of using this ProArt computer or laptop. The reason is that for me, the weakest link in a laptop, in a PC laptop, is the screen. I have seen many laptops worked with. I've owned a few, but everywhere, without an exception, the laptop screen was the biggest drawback. Well, people talk about the capability of the screen in terms of color profiles and the capability of kind of reproduction, etc. But at the end of the day, it is the weakest link. I'm yet to come across another laptop, a PC-based laptop, which can display colors as nice, as vivid as this one is. And like many of the other ASUS monitors that we have reviewed in the studio and also using in the studio, this one also is Calman certified with a delta value of less than 2, which is fantastic for a professional monitor. And it also, of course, reproduces 100% of DCI-P3. Now, Adobe RGB and DCI-P3 are two standards of color reproduction, or color profiles that we, as creative professionals love to work with. DCI-P3 is now becoming more popular among digital content creators, and this monitor can actually reproduce 100% of DCI-P3, which is great news for creators, of course. This also has a few other certifications too, which, for example, TUV, which actually takes care of blue light emission. Blue light is actually harmful to your eyes. It is actually reduced to a great extent, well under permissible limits, so TUV certification is also available. Now, this has a great contrast value. It's an HDR monitor. HDR feature can be switched on and switched off in the control panel. I think I told you a bit earlier. And it has a contrast value of 1,000,000:1 and 550 nits of brightness, which allows you to work with this monitor in almost all environment if you are outside. And of course, this is a 10-bit monitor. Well, 10-bit monitor guarantees you billions of color reproduction. And of course, it is completely calibratable too. Well, okay, please understand that we are not tech reviewers, okay? We are photographers. We actually analyze use case scenarios. So I don't want to really go into the details which I really don't understand, or, things like benchmarking and tests and speed and whatever. If it works well, it works well for us. So that's the point of view from which I'm going to be talking about this computer. So monitor is something which we really understand. That's why I spoke about it. Well, here multitasking, speeds, threads, cores, all that, it's kind of beyond me. But I know for a fact that this guy really is very, very powerful when it comes to computing power. ProArt in general, as the name suggests, is created for professional artists. The one which we have in front of me is the top of the line, which has a Ryzen 5000 series, the Ryzen 9 5900 chip in it. It is one of the finest chips currently, one of the best ones that you can hope to have in a laptop. And which takes care of a whole lot of things like multitasking. See, when you do a lot of work, you will have 3 or 4 stuff along with your communication and all that running alongside, right? This chip is perfectly geared for that. The next thing that you worry about as a creator is your rendering capacity, and expandability is another one, and of course, dependability. RAM is very important, of course. This can go up to 64 GB of RAM. Currently, I have 32 GB of RAM, and the storage, the internal storage are SSDs. It can take up to 4 TB. Currently, I have 1 TB. Well, that actually takes care of my computer, RAM, and storage. Well, now comes the GPU. This one is NVIDIA Studio Series, okay? This uses the GeForce RTX 3070 with just, well, RAM is only 4 GB, but that's actually good enough. We found, well, I'll show it to you. I'll demonstrate playing some videos and editing with some videos. So NVIDIA, for me, especially the Adobe Creative Suite users and the DaVinci users love to work with NVIDIA GPUs. Well, this one thankfully has the NVIDIA. So that's a great news, and a great monitor, a great processor, expandable RAM and expandable storage. Now the storage can be configured in RAID 0 for maximum speed. Now when you have such powerful processor and a GPU all inside a laptop, it's definitely going to heat up when it lifts a lot of weight. Well, apparently, I've not opened and seen the way it is designed, but I've seen it in many other videos, and from their technical manual, I understand that the heat dissipation and that management is taken care of very well. Now the next one is a matter of envy from the point of view of a MacBook Pro user. Well, it is the slots that are available. Let me show you. I mean, there are tons of connectivity ports here. You have a USB 3.2, you have two USB-C, latest generation 3.2 again, you have HDMI 2.1, which means you can actually play up to 8K in full resolution. And of course, this is the power. Of course, these are ventilators. And on the other side, you have the RJ45, you have another USB 3.2 and a high-speed SD slot. Okay, now this is very important because these days most of the cameras that we use are they use SD, and this is now an SD reader, and of course a 3.5 mm audio port as well. So, and if you quantify, I mean, as a Mac user, an Apple laptop user, if I have to get all these connectivity on a laptop, I have to have an external dock, and that dock is going to cost you, awful lot of money if you want a dependable one, that is. Now to the most interesting feature of this particular computer. It's called the Asus Dial. Now Asus Dial is, it's very unique to Asus, okay? That's why they call it Asus Dial. It's like the Microsoft control dial. It is assignable. You can program it to kind of perform a certain function. By default, it has a volume control and brightness, screen brightness control available on it. And it, like I said, it stays very comfortably under your left thumb. It doesn't come on the way at all. And it doesn't even touch the screen when you fold it, of course. That's a no-brainer. It has to be like that. Well, it currently works with Adobe Lightroom, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Premiere Pro, and a few other Adobe softwares as well. It can be controlled through this particular interface called the ProArt Creative Hub. Now, the Creative Hub has few other functionalities too. Creative Hub allows you to monitor the status of the computer. You can switch the fan profile from, let's say, a standard mode to a performance mode to a full speed mode. Now, full speed mode, it will actually start kicking up a lot of noise. So if you click it, there you go. The fan will work in full speed. So if you're okay with that additional noise from the fan, and if you want to really cool the machine down because machine is doing some rendering, multitasking, whatever, well, you can switch to the full speed mode. Otherwise, in performance mode, it ventilates perfectly well, but it quietens down, of course. And in color calibration mode, of course, you can calibrate a monitor within the computer. And well, of course, you have to use a third party's hardware like the X-Rite i1 Display Pro. You can use that. You know how to calibrate a monitor. This is, like I told you, is DCI-P 300%. You can calibrate it very well from this interface. And of course, you can create groups. suppose you want the computer to simultaneously start 3 softwares at once. You don't have to click it 3 times. Well, for example, if I'm working with Premiere Pro, usually the media encoder and the audition is in my computer is switched on. Now here in one click, it allows you to launch all 3 software simultaneously, Photoshop and Lightroom together, for example. So that is the feature of this particular console called the Work Smart within the Creative Hub. And then comes the control settings. So you can actually use the Asus Dial in Premiere Pro. Currently, I have assigned it to Premiere Pro, After Effects, and Photoshop and Lightroom Classic. And I think I already told you that in the default mode, the common functions are system volume and system brightness. It also allows you to in case if you're using a Microsoft Wheel device, it will allow you to configure that as well. Currently, let me also tell you, while this is an interesting addition, the functionalities are being developed. As we speak, more and more functions are being added to it. In Premiere Pro, currently only 3 functions are possible: timeline zoom, audio track height, and time axis adjustments. These are the 3 ones by default that is possible. It actually has given you an add function button, but I can't really see a new function which I can pick from there. And in Lightroom Classic, a whole lot of basic color, global correction features are currently available. In add functions, well, yes, of course, there are a whole lot of other functions are here which I can pick and add. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay with the basic global correction. I'll show you some examples. In Photoshop, it is brush group, layer zoom, undo, that is going back in history or in forward, and cycle through documents. And add functions, yes, I can actually see a few set of additional functions which I can assign. For example, eraser size, and say confirm, and it kind of comes in here. And if I click, and once I am in that software, I will get that functionality in the Asus Dial. All right, so what I'm going to quickly do is to go to Lightroom. Lightroom is already on. Let me pick one image. Let's see, what can I pick? Okay, let me pick one image. All right, I'm going to go, let me pick a nice sharp one. All right, this looks nice and sharp. Okay, now here I have 2 ways of controlling the basic parameters. Okay, I can use the slider and the mouse and the slider. Okay, I have connected an Asus mouse here. Okay, that's how typically you work with Photoshop, Lightroom, and Premiere Pro, right? You don't really use it unless you're traveling, you're in a flight, you're in that kind of situations. Then you use the trackpad and the buttons. Otherwise, you use a mouse, right? So here I'm using a mouse, and if I press down the control dial, I get all the controls here. These 2 are, like I said, system volume and system brightness. Now, this one is the contrast of the image. And then controlling the black, and the next one is black, then white, shadows, and highlights. And you keep rotating, and it'll keep cycling through the entire series. So let me see what I want. I want to correct temperature, which is the most obvious one. So color temperature, let me pick color temperature. Currently it is 4500, and when I turn the wheel, you can actually see the color temperature moving through very small fractions, which is actually impossible if you're using the slider and the mouse combination. It's impossible to go through such a precise small quantities or increments. The other one which is appearance is saturations, for example. Click on saturation. Now it's saturation. I can go at one increment. You know, it is very difficult to do with the mouse and that slider combination. Here I have very fine control when I do this particular saturation control, which is brilliant. This functionality as we speak is being worked on by ASUS. They're going to bring in one day, probably you'll have all the functions which are on the side table all available for you to be accessed through the ASUS Dial. Let me quickly go and show you the Premiere Pro, and let's open up some heavy files and see whether this guy is really holding up. Okay, so I have a 4K project. Okay, it's a 4K project. This 4K project was, so it's already there in the computer, and let me, by the way, it can actually drive. Because of this HDMI port, I can actually drive a big screen and work with dual screens. Okay, so we have a 4K external monitor. This computer will very comfortably drive an external 4K monitor, and I can actually work very comfortably with dual monitors. So here, so let me add, so this, I'm already on the screen, I'm on color. Okay, so there are lots of things that needs to be done here. Okay, this is basically a log footage. So yeah, there I go. So it's basically I'm working with a Canon R5 footage I borrowed from a friend, and it's a log footage, as I can see. So let me make this. Well, currently it is not the ideal condition that I should be working on a moving image, because this light is kind of hitting my face, but nevertheless it's good enough for me to kind of explain to you. So I'm going to add a little bit of saturation, and yeah, there I go. So this is my screen. Let me play this. It's a 4K log footage from R5. Let me play this. Yeah, this is ungraded, of course, but it's playing on the fly in 1.4. So let me play this in full resolution. And Canon is pretty notorious, I mean, for high bitrate video images. So let me play this. It takes a little bit of time. It doesn't really play very well. That's because Canon R5 uses, very high bitrate images. Let me go to half quality. Yeah. Let me go back and play it again. In half quality too, the playing is a little jagged. Yes, 1/4 is perfect. So, but I have seen a few other creators working very comfortably with red footage, 4K red and 8K red very comfortably. I don't have an access to that kind of footage. So, well, 4K Canon high bitrate images, log images. The ideal way to work in such scenarios will be working with proxies. But if I try to play it, I can grade it well, I can see it, I know what I'm getting, but yes, it kind of doesn't play pretty well. Let me exit without saving, and let me open a regular 4K UHD project from our Fuji. In fact, a project using which we created the hero shots for this this particular laptop that we're talking about. So let me open that up and show you how nicely, sweetly it is playing. All right, and what's the duration of this? It's about 1 minute. There's about a 1 minute kind of footage, and I am playing in full size. All right, so here I am looking at the full screen, and let me play this. Well, it plays beautifully. This is a ProRes footage from Fuji. So we use an external recorder, the Atomos Ninja 5, and it is recorded externally onto that. So it plays beautifully in a full resolution. Well, it is not just that, it has an effect layer. It's got so many layers. Let me enlarge this and kind of share with you people. It's got a whole lot of things in it. I mean, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of audio. It's got the video layer, and it's got, I don't know how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, half a dozen and more layers of supers and effects and things like that. It is playing beautifully, and it will also render this section very comfortably. So let me try and render. Okay, so now I'm rendering the sequence in and out in full quality, matching the source with hardware encoding. And yeah, I'm going to use 2 passes. Let's see what happens in 2 pass. 2 pass and a good bit depth. And well, it's picked up that 1 minute footage, and it's just rendering very, very smoothly. And yes, when this guy is really pushed, I can hear the fan. Yes, the fan has come a little louder now. Contrary to what I said in the beginning, yes, now I can hear the fan, but I think you require that kind of cooling while handling this kind of files. That's right. I think it took about 1.5 minutes to render a 4K UHD file with so many layers. The duration is 55 seconds. So I'm assuming a 10-minute can be actually rendered in 15 minutes, which is pretty good for a laptop. I'm sure it'll also render the 8Ks and 4Ks. I'm sure it'll take time because, you know, end of the day, it's a laptop. I know what is crossing your mind. I know you're going to say that my computer is doing this or my laptop will render faster and all that. I'm sure it is possible. As a matter of principle, we don't compare or do shootouts in Pixel VIILAGE. But for me, you know, 1 minute footage, rendering in 1 minute is pretty acceptable, and that too 4K UHD footage with all these you know, multiple layers and audios and effects and things like that. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm sure I will discover more as we go along. I'll keep you updated on the developments. So why would I buy it, or why would I recommend it to someone else? Well, if I have to recommend this to someone, it's definitely the dial is not going to be the primary reason why I will recommend it to you, because it is in the initial stages. It's going to get more functionalities into it. If you invested in now, sure, it's a software extension. It will bring in more functionalities into it for sure. But I'll buy this for the monitor, the 16:10 aspect ratio monitor, which is 10-bit 4K OLED with 100% DCI-P3, which is completely hardware calibratable. So that's a big thing for me. Having an NVIDIA GPU inside is very big for me because I know how Adobe loves NVIDIA. The other thing, of course, is the Ryzen, the AMD Ryzen 9 5900 processor, which again currently the best that you can have in a laptop like this, and an amazing build, and of course the price. Asus ProArt StudioBook 16 is available in India for a street price starting from 169,990 to 219,990. And of course, it comes with a 3 months Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, absolutely free. Well, there are so many things that I can actually spend time on explaining more and more and more, but I am a photographer and a filmmaker. So for me, it's still images and video. And this laptop handles it very comfortably without any kind of protests. It's built very well. It's got the state-of-the-art processor, memory and storage inside, and a great GPU. And of course, a monitor to die for, backed up by Asus warranty. What more you need to buy this laptop? Bye for now.